Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, Jaya Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, Jaya Swami Prabhupada, Jaya Bhakti Vedanta 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 Swami Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. His Divine Grace, the Bhai Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, chapter entitled Swami Invites the Hippies. Joan and Roger were soon initiated, receiving the names Jamuna and Guruda. And the very next day they were married. At their wedding ceremony, Swamiji presided, wearing a bulky garland of leaves and rhododendron flowers. He sat on a cushion on the temple floor, surrounded by his followers and paraphernalia for the sacrificial fire. Before him was a small mound of earth where he would later build the fire. He explained the meaning of Krishna consciousness marriage and how husband and wife should assist one another and serve Krishna, keeping him in the center. Swamiji had commented that he did not like the Western women's dress, and at his request, Yamuna was dressed in a sari. Although Swamiji had called for ghee, clarified butter, as one of the sacrificial ingredients, the devotees, thinking ghee too costly, had substituted melted margarine. He had called for firewood also, and the devotees had supplied him with bits of broken orange crepe. Now with Yamuna and Gurudas seated before him on the opposite side of the mound of earth, he picked up a small piece of the splintered orange crepe, dipped it into what was supposed to be ghee, and held it in the candle flame to begin the fire. The splinter flames sputtered and went out. He picked up another splinter and moistened it in the melted margarine. But when he touched it to the flame, it made the same spit sound and sputtered out. After trying unsuccessfully 4 or 5 times, Swamiji looked up and said, "This marriage will have a very slow start." Yamuna began to cry. Jai, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारि तीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि तीरावनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे जय श्री श्री राधा गिरधर जय श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय निताय गौर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Hare Krishna, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 29, entitled Talks Between Narada and King Prachanabarhi. Text 18 to 20. Deho ratastvindriya sva samvatsararayo gatihi Drikarma chakras triguna Raja pancha subanduraha Manorashmir buddhistuto Tinnido dvanda kubharaha Panchendriyartha prakshepa Sapta dhatu varutaka Akutir vikramo bhayo Mrigatishtam pradhavati Ekadasendriya chamuhu Panchasuna vinodakrit Deho ratastrindriyas indriyasvaha Samvatsararayo gati Vikarma chakras triguna Dvaja pancha subanduraha. Does anyone like to read the first verse? We've written that on the Samvatsararayo Vikarma chakras triguna Dvaja pancha subanduraha. Deho ratasva indriyasvaha Samvatsararayo gati Karma chakras triguna Dvaja pancha subanduraha. Deho ratastu indirasva Karma chakras triguna Yoga pancha. Deho ratastu indriyasva Raja pancha subandura. Deha, body. Rataha, chariot. Two, but. Indriya, the knowledge acquiring senses. Asva, the horses. Samvatsara, total years. Rayaha, duration of life. Agatihi, without advancing. Dvi, two. Karma, activities. Chakra, wheel. Three, 3. Guna, modes of nature. Vijaha, flags. Pancha, 5. Ashru, life air. Banduraha, bondage. Mana, the mind. Rashmi, rope. Buddhi, intelligence. Sutaha, chariot driver. Krit, heart. Nida, sitting place. Dvandva, duality. Kubaraha, the post for the harness. Pancha, 5. Indriya artha, sense object. Prakshepaha, weapons. Sapta, 7. Dhatu, element. Varutakaha, coverings. Akutihi, attempts of the 5 working senses. Vikramaha, prowess or processes. Bayaha, external. Mriga Trishnam, false aspiration. Pradavati, runs after. Ekadasa, 11. Indriya, senses. Chamuhu, soldiers. Pancha, 5. Tuna, envy. Vinoda, pleasure. Krit, doing. This is the translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Prabhupada. Narada Muni continued. What I referred to as the chariot was in actuality the body. The senses are the horses that pull the chariot. As time passes year after year, the horses run without obstruction, but in fact they make no progress. Pious and impious activities are the 2 wheels of the chariot. The 3 modes of material nature are the chariot's flags. The 5 types of life air constitute the living entity's bondage. The mind is considered to be the rope, intelligence is the chariot driver. The heart is the sitting place of the chariot, and the dualities of life, such as pleasure and pain, are the knotting place. The 7 elements are the coverings of the chariot. The working senses are the 5 external processes. The 11 senses are the soldiers. Being engrossed in sense enjoyment, the living entity seated on the chariot hankers after fulfillment of his false desires, and runs after sense enjoyment life after life. Purport. The entanglement of the living entity in sense enjoyment is very nicely explained in these verses. The word samvatsara, meaning the progress of time, is significant. Day after day, week after week, fortnight after fortnight, month after month, year after year, the living entity becomes entangled in the chariot's progress. The chariot rests on 2 wheels, which are pious and impious activities. The living entity attains a certain position in life in a particular type of body according to his pious and impious activities. But his transmigration into different bodies should not be taken as progress. Real progress is explained in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Tyakva deham punarjanmanaiti. One makes real progress when he does not have to take on another material body. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 19.138. Eti Brahmanda Bori Ananta Jivagan Chaurasi Laksha Yunite Kare Brahmana. The living entity is wandering throughout the entire universe and taking birth in different species on different planets. Thus, he moves up and down, but that is not real progress. Real progress is getting out of this material world altogether. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 8.16, Abrahma bhuvanaloka punaravartino arjuna mamupetya kutukaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Even if one is promoted to Brahmaloka, the highest planet in the universe, he has to come down again to the lower planetary system. Thus, he is wandering up and down perpetually under the influence of the three modes of material nature. Being illusioned, he thinks he is making progress. He is like an airplane encircling the earth day and night, incapable of leaving the earth's gravitational field. Factually, there's no progress because the airplane is conditioned by the earth's gravity. Just as a king is seated on a chariot, the living entity is seated in the body. The sitting place is the heart, and the living entity sits there and engages in the struggle for existence, which goes on without progress perpetually. In the words of Narottam Das Thakur, Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Kevala Vishera Banda, Amrita Boliya Yeba Koi, Nana Yoni Sada Pire, Kadaraya Bhakshana Kore, Tara Janma Ada Pate Yaya. The living entity struggles very hard due to the influence of fruitive activity and mental speculation, and simply gets a different type of body life after life. He eats all kinds of nonsense and is condemned by his activities of sense enjoyment. If one really wants to progress in life, he must give up the ways of karma kanda and jnana kanda, fruitive activities and mental speculation. Being fixed in Krishna consciousness, one can become free from the entanglement of birth and death and the vain struggle for existence. In these verses, the word Mrigatrishnam Pradhavati are very significant because the living entity is influenced by a thirst for sense enjoyment. He is like a deer that goes to the desert to search out water. In a desert, an animal simply searches in vain for water. Of course, there's no water in the desert, and the animal simply sacrifices his life in an attempt to find it. Everyone is planning for future happiness, thinking that somehow or other, if he can reach a certain point, he will be happy. In actuality, however, when he comes to that point, he sees that there is no happiness. He then plans to go further and further to another point. This is called Mriga Trishna, and its basis is sense enjoyment in this material world. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Sri Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Nam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Pradaya Krishna Prishthaya Vati Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Name Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasarani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Devasarani Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatrupatamaham Bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hare Krishna. So we continue discussing the pastimes of, or the conversation between Narada Muni and King Kachinabarhi. Narada Muni is So this section, King Krishnabari is asking Narada Muni to sort of further explain that allegorical story that he had told him before. And it's a very elaborate story that we've been hearing for many chapters, many months. Narada Muni is considered the original spiritual master. He's one of the 12 Mahajans. And Srila Prabhupada goes to say that Narada Muni is, he actually says the immediate spiritual master is the direct representative of Narada Muni. And there's no difference between the instructions of Narada Muni and those of your present spiritual master. And Srila Prabhupada himself did many pastimes where he had darshan of Narada Muni. Yeah, and there was this in Bury Place in London when he went came straight from the airport. They had built a new Vyasa-san for Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada came, he said he appreciated the Vyasa-san, and then he asked who made this Vyasa-san. And the devotees told the name of the devotee, and Prabhupada said, call him, I want to see him. The devotees went after the class, and Prabhupada's calling him. He went up, and Prabhupada said, can you make 2 more asanas just like this, like the one I'm sitting, but smaller? And the devotees were thinking, why, who are these asanas for? And no one had the courage to ask Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said these asanas are for Narada Muni and Lord Brahma. Because every day during Gaurarati, Narada Muni and Brahma. And so now I've seen some pictures still. The temple moved, now it's in Soho Street, in 10 Soho Street. And still those asanas are there. You see the pictures. So Narada Muni, his name is very meaningful. Narada, Nara means Narayan, and Da means Dadati, one who gives. Narayan gives Krishna Bhakti to those he meets. So Narada Muni, he gives Krishna Bhakti to different people in different ways, and that's the quality of the spiritual master. Not every disciple is the same. Every disciple, different disciples are of different nature, different stages in bhakti. So according to the disciple, he gives different instructions, whether it's Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj, he got instructions in the womb of his mother. Dhruva Maharaj was 5 years old. And the hunter, Rigari, Valmiki, so many different devotees or disciples of Narada Muni, and they got different kinds of, they were instructed in different ways. And King Krishnabari, he told him this allegorical story. And as an ideal disciple, he was inquiring submissively. He couldn't understand something, so he asked again for clarification. And the way he asked was also in such a humble way. He said, it's not your fault, it's not because you didn't explain it properly, it's my fault because I'm so attached to sense gratification. So I cannot understand this instruction, please repeat it to me. So that is also very meaningful and something for us to ponder about, that whenever we meet the spiritual master, we should be asking questions. And if we don't understand the instruction, we should keep asking. Repetition is a good thing. And we ask in a very humble mode. And the questions he's asking also, questions are also related to spiritual life. If not, we tend to ask lots of material questions, solution to our material problems, which they are sometimes necessary, but we should not. The more important thing would be to get instructions on spiritual problems in life. So in this section, Narada Muni compares the material body to a chariot. And there are similar explanations in Katha Upanishad and in Prabhupada's purport in Bhagavad Gita. So the senses are the horses. And the horses are connected to a rope, the reins, that is considered the mind. Then there's a driver who's holding on to the reins, that's the intelligence. Then there's a passenger who is the spirit soul. And the sitting place of the passenger is considered the heart. So the soul is covered by the false ego. So the soul thinks that I'm this material body, and somehow or other is trying to satisfy his senses. So the intelligence is busy trying to see how the soul can satisfy its senses, and how to make more money, how to get a nicer house, how to get a family. So constantly the mind is thinking, that's the intelligence, or is thinking on how to do these things. Then naturally the mind becomes absorbed in that. And when the intelligence is sort of distracted with that, the mind starts doing whatever it wants. And then the senses start pulling the chariot all over the place. And the reins aren't strong, so the intelligence isn't holding on to the reins. And the horses have sort of free rein, they just do whatever they want. And so this way the chariot will never reach the destination. Actually, there's no destination. They're just running around with the chariots going with no proper destination. But it's moving because the wheels are all moving, the horse is pulling and the wheels are moving. And to describe as we're going around trying to satisfy our senses, we're creating so much of pious activities and impious activities. The Bhagavad Gita describes it as karma and vikarma. So we're doing sometimes things according to scriptural regulation to satisfy our senses. Sometimes we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing just to satisfy us. So this way the wheels are moving. And it's said that by looking at the flag of a chariot, you can tell whose chariot it is. If you see Arjuna's chariot, you're looking at the flag, how would you recognize Arjuna's chariot? Hanuman and the flag. So this living entity is confused. You can recognize him by this flag, which contains the three modes of material nature. So by looking at his actions, you can tell this person is bound by the three modes of material nature, and you can see which mode is more prominent in that person, whether he's more in the mode of goodness. So in this way, the chariot is moving forward, and these impious and pious activities create more reactions, and he keeps taking another body, birth after birth. Shankaracharya explains, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani, Jatare Shayanam. So he's taking birth, then death, taking birth in another mother's womb. So again, the cycle goes on and on and on. So one can't say that the chariot's not moving. It is moving, but it's not moving in a coordinated way or to a particular destination. So this moving, is it considered real progress? And here it's explained, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that again, he says how the living entity is transmigrating from one species to another, sometimes going up to the heavenly planets, sometimes to the lower planets. But he can't get out of the cycle of repetitive birth and death. So he just keeps going. And Prabhupada gives an example of an airplane. You can fly 24 hours a day from one airport to another, but you're still stuck in this material world. You can't get out because of the gravitational pull. So then real progress means Tyaktva Deham Punarjan. So one who doesn't have to take birth again in this material world, that is real progress. And there's so much effort to make this chariot move. The intelligence, mind, so much effort, and the horses are doing so much effort to move the chariot. And Srimad Bhagavatam describes that all this so much effort, at the end, it's all a waste of time. Dharma swanistita pumsham vishvaksheno kata suyat notpadayet yatiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. It's a useless waste of time. All this occupational activities you're doing according to your varna ashram, if they do not invoke the urge to hear the glories about Krishna, the urge to hear about Krishna, chant Krishna's names, perform devotional service, and all these activities are useless labor. But the living entity can't stop this. They're driven by sense gratification. And here the word is Mriga Trishnam Sadhavati. Mriga Trishnam is false aspiration. So running after false aspiration. The mind makes us think that we try to satisfy our senses. And actually, we want to satisfy our senses because by nature, we are pleasure seeking. Anandamaya Bhyasa. We're always seeking for pleasure. And the sense is always looking, where can I get some sense enjoyment? And once you get there, you think that'll make us happy. And then once we get there, we realize maybe the happiness is temporary, lasts for a while, or it's no happiness even. Then the mind tells us, no, it's okay, go to the next place. It's like the deer looking for water in the desert. He sees a mirage, runs towards it, and finds there's no water in the next, and then finally dies of thirst. So like that, our life is spent chasing after mirages, thinking we'll be happy, this will make us happy. But we are Anandamaya Vyasa, we want Ananda, we want unlimited, unending happiness. And we're searching for it in the wrong place, in a world that's temporary, dukkhalayam, asaswatam, temporary and full of misery. And whatever happiness we get here will just be, there won't be any happiness, even if there is, it's temporary, limited, and that's not what we want. So what is the right path for this chariot? As Bhagavatam describes, Kamasya Nendriya Priti Labho Jiveta Yavata Jivasya Tattva Diknyasa Nartho Yasheha Karmavi. Life's desires should never be directed at sense gratification. We should desire a healthy life and self-preservation enough so that we can use our body to inquire, Atato Brahma Jignasa, what is the purpose of life? Who am I? What is the goal of life? And nothing else should be the goal of one's work. So that's the right path of the chariot. It should not be used in just only sense gratification, but we still have to self-preservation. We have to do what is necessary to maintain this body, but utilize the chariot for a higher purpose. So how to control this chariot? The horses, the animals, you can't trust the animals. They are very fickle. Anytime they can just run off. They don't expect the horses to control the chariot. The reins, they attach to the horse. So if the horse pulls the reins, then the mind will just go where the senses pull it. So the intelligence is a driver. If he holds the reins, then the horses can be controlled. But the driver just, if you get into Uber, you've got to tell the driver where to go. The driver can't read your mind. So it's as good as what the passenger wants. Depending on what the passenger says, if the passenger knows the destination, then he can tell the driver, and the driver can do the needful. So if you get into the taxi, you should be able to tell him, please bring me to Sri Radha Giridhari temple. And then the driver can do the needful, he can drive the chariot towards the temple. So, yeah, I'm sure we all know this. So where's the process? Where do we start? So obviously we can't try to just control the mind, the senses. That's not going to work. So we have to go back to the root, the passenger. And the passenger he's forgotten. He's covered by false ego. He thinks I'm this body, I'm man, woman, Indian, Fijian, dog, cat. So first, his false ego needs to be removed. He needs to get his real ego. He needs to understand that I'm not this body, I'm not this chariot. Actually, I'm Jivera Swarupai, Krishnera Nityadas. I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. Then immediately, the intelligence can be harnessed to act on that level, and the intelligence will try to follow the direction. And the intelligence will control the mind, and the mind controls the senses, engages the senses so the horses can sort of run in a coordinated way towards their destination. So where does this process of uncovering the false ego and finding out a real ego, that's the beginning of spiritual life. And what we understand, the only way that's done is through the association of a pure devotee of the Lord. So the sadhu, So the Guru, he comes, then he can reveal this knowledge to us. He can tell us, oh, don't be a fool. You have so many lifetimes you've misidentified with this body. Actually, you know who you are. You're really actually a servant of God. He gives us Sambandha Gyan, who we are, who is God. And he tells us, where should this chariot head? What is the goal? What is the prayojan siddhi? Develop the dormant love for God. And how to do that, how to control the mind, the intelligence, the senses. And he gives the process, the abhideya, the process of how to achieve that goal. So all that comes from the association of a pure devotee. Initially, it invokes a little bit of faith, shraddha. Then by associating with pure devotees, he engages you in bhajana kriya, doing some devotional activities, devotional service. And then slowly it gets uncovered. So that's, yeah, yesterday Mataji was discussing about intelligence. I think yesterday's verse was intelligence. So we can see how the intelligence is sort of getting directions from the false ego. But once we understand the real ego, then the intelligence can act. But sometimes we're so used to our material intelligence. We see how to understand Krishna, how to do this devotional service to our own material intelligence. So many books are there, we can just read books and use our intelligence to figure this out. But we understand that spiritual intelligence actually doesn't depend on our ability. Spiritual intelligence comes from Krishna. The Chatur Shloka 10.10, Krishna says, Tesham satare yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam jena mamapaya. So he says, one who engages in my devotional service with love and devotion. So with love, priti purvakam, not just officially like I'm doing it, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, but with love, if someone is doing that, then Krishna gives the intelligence to that person how to direct his mind, direct his senses. And how does he give that? He gives that through the agency of the spiritual master. Because Krishna is in the heart. Bhagavad Gita says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishta. And being in the heart, he can see how that aspiring devotee, how sincere he is, how serious he is, and then externally he manifests as the spiritual master. And then it's the duty of the disciple when he sees this spiritual master who's going to give him that spiritual intelligence. How does he get that? And again, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya dekshanti jnana jnanena tattvadasi. This person, this pure devotee, spiritual master, he can give this, but we have to do something. We have to approach him. We have to approach him with all humility, surrender to him, serve him, and inquire submissively, which we see in the case of King Krishna Bahi, how he's inquiring submissively. And then he can give us this knowledge. It's not just by book knowledge that we can get this. The spiritual knowledge comes from Krishna himself. Again, it's described, Yasya Devi Parabhakti, Tata Devi Tata Guru Tashe Katitahi Prakashanti Mahatmana. This intelligence is not something we get from our own endeavor, but it's prakash, it's revealed in our heart by having faith in the spiritual master and Krishna at the same time. And then with that spiritual intelligence, we can control the mind. The mind will engage the senses. The senses are running all over the place, but we engage Rishikena, Rishikesha Sevanam, using the senses and serving the senses of Krishna. And we perform the different types of Navavida Bhakti, trying to direct the chariot towards the goal. So this chariot analogy, everyone knows. So I was just, when this came just recently, that's a couple of things have been happening that when I was thinking of this, the thing that came to mind is these horses that are running all over the place, pulling the chariot. And even while practicing devotional service, we know what the goal is. We're trying to control the mind and the senses, but the horses still take us off the path sometimes. And then we have to come back, and then this keeps happening again and again. So sometimes it can be a bit disheartening, and sometimes I get disheartened. Why is this happening? So I just thought we'll discuss a little bit about that and give myself some hope, and maybe those of you who are in the same situation will also get some solace. So we understand the 9 stages of devotional service, starting with Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and the Anartha Nivritti Nishtha. So at least myself, we're trying to do some Bhajana Kriya, being engaged by the spiritual master, and we're trying to kill all these dirty things in our heart. So in the stage of Bhajana Kriya, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadambini describes 2 types of Bhajana Kriya. One is Anishtita and the other one is Nishtita. Anishtita means unsteady practice of devotional service, and the other is steady. And the unsteady practice of devotional service, he describes 6 different types of 6 different types. So the first one is Utsahamai. That means a new devotee who comes and he's got so much enthusiasm. Someone tells him he's playing some like maybe basic katsals, and someone says, "Oh, Prabhu, you're playing so nicely," and he thinks, "Oh, I'm an expert player." And someone says, "Oh, Prabhu, you're chanting so nicely," and he thinks, "Oh, I think I'm a pure devotee of the Lord." So that's the initial stage. Sometimes we get that. And the next stage is Ganatarala, which means sometimes you're very enthusiastic, and then another time you become one day you're chanting 64 rounds, and what are you doing now? I'm not going to have prasad the whole day. And then the next day is just the whole day not chanting any round. So that's one stage. Then there's Vyuda Vikalpa. He speculates about the different options in devotional service. Should I become a grahastha? Should I remain grahastha? Maybe I should run away and become vanaprastha. I look at some of these, not vanaprastha, become sannyas. I look at some of the pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam. There's some verses that glorify sannyas or giving up family life, or how bad family life is, and shackles, grahanda kupam, like Prahlad Maharaj describes. So then one might think, oh, maybe I'll give up my family life. Another time he's thinking, oh, if I leave, what will my family do with my children? So like this, he's always confused. Should I do this? Should I do that? The fourth one, which was related to these horses, is Vishaya Shangara. That means this is a tug of war between the senses and the sense object. So from time immemorial, there's this relationship between the senses and the sense object. And it's very difficult because millions of lives we have been attached to sense gratification. So to give it up sometimes it's a bit of a struggle depending on what our previous background was. So it's not unnatural for the senses to get carried away. And this is a stage of bhakti where you know we shouldn't do something, but somehow or other you get carried away. And we try, sometimes you really try very hard, but you don't know what happens. It's just like somebody is just pulling you and something is just pulling you and you end up doing something and then you later regret. And so this is not something unnatural. This is natural. This is a described, understood stage of bhakti in the process of devotional service. So how to do this? It's described that we should repent. When this happens, we should repent. The worst thing is to get carried away and think, okay, that's fine, that's all right. We should repent. We should, just because sometimes we get carried away and we have another 5 devotees with us doing the same thing. In the association of devotees, that's not, we should always repent and not keep trying to do that. That'll be one of the offenses, to chant the holy name while committing sinful activities, thinking the holy name can save us. But we should sincerely repent and keep trying, that we don't put in a situation that it happens. Again, it may happen, and again we repent and we keep trying. There's in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, there's a verse that describes how we should approach this situation when it happens, and one of the horses runs away and we try to bring it back. Just read the translation. Having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sensual enjoyment, my devotees should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activity. So I think it's Rupa Goswami who describes that. How should someone, what should his mentality be? So he says, by my previous shameful life, my heart is polluted by so many illusory attachments, and I have no power to stop them. Only Lord Krishna within my heart, he can remove all these contaminations. But whether he removes them or not, I will never give up my devotional service. Even if the Lord places millions of obstacles in my path, and even because of my offenses, if I go to hell, I will never give up serving Lord Krishna. And then he goes on to say that I repent all these foolish attachments to these material things, but I'm patiently waiting for the Lord's mercy. In the first chapter of the first canto, we also hear this verse, Shinvatam Swakara Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridayantos Abhadrani, Vidanoti Suvisatam. So by hearing these pastimes of Krishna, the desire for material enjoyment is slowly cleansed. And then we can get free. So we need to keep hearing the pastimes of Krishna. And again, it's said in Bhagavatam, Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarnarata rasayana kata sajoshanada sapavadgavatmani shraddharatir bhaktir anukramishati. Says that if we hear the glories of Krishna in the association of devotees, especially the association of pure devotees, then those messages, they go through the ears into the heart, and they cleanse our heart, and they set us on the path of bhakti, starting from the process of shraddha all the way to prema. So we have confidence that as long as we keep doing this, we keep hearing the glories of the Lord, performing devotional service in the association of devotees, then automatically we will get carried through the stages, different stages. It may take a little bit of time, but we are confident that we will get there, even though we're in the stage of what is the name of that stage? I don't remember. Vishaya Sangha, the stage of the tug of war between the senses, the sense object. So then we can overcome that, proceed on to Nishta and Ruchi Asakti Bhava and reach our desired destination. And Srila Prabhupada's morning program is amazing. So this Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, every day having these Bhagavatam classes to slowly purify our heart. Prabhupada has saved us. Yeah, the other two, just to complete the other two of the last two of the six is Niyamakshama. That's inability to uphold vows. So we make a vow and then we can't fulfill it. Or okay, Prabhu, from today I'm going to fast on Ekadasi for half a day, and then somebody brings a nice prasad in the morning. on breakfast at time for Ekadasi. Very next Ekadasi of starting. So yeah, difficulties to think about. And Taranga Rangini, this is the last one, which is delighting in material opportunity. When we do bhakti, sometimes bhakti gives rise to some weeds. So someone might, you might get some material gain, you might get some adoration, you might get some position, some power. In the material world, like in Auckland, I don't know, 1 point something million people. So for you to get a position in that big a society, but in a small society of 20 people, it's very easy to become president of 20 people. That's not much. But then that can give you some, some ego. So those are the weeds. We've got to be careful of. That is the last waves. So yeah, in this way, the horses can be controlled with a purified mind, intelligence, as we understand our real identity as eternal servants of Krishna. Thank you very much for listening attentively. I'd like to request anyone to experienced devotees who are here to share their thoughts, realizations, and what other methods of controlling those horses while practicing devotional service. Hearing each other. Oh. Comments or questions are there? Yes, sir.
Wondering that, like a lot of times people do things, if you look from a scientific point of view, that any action that we do for the pleasure, which you mentioned, and from medical point of view and psychological point of view, they say that every time you do something, some activity, then dopamine is released in the brain, and oxytocin and other chemicals and endorphins and all sorts of things that make you happy, and that's why you do what you do. So when it comes to certain activities that we shouldn't be doing, like, for example, meat eating or fish and eggs and those sort of things, devotees very easily give up by eating prasadam, something higher taste, so that when they eat the prasad, they feel more happy than they would if they were eating this nonsense food, right? So when it comes to other types of sense gratification, why is it so hard for the devotees to give up that sense gratification? Surely there should be certain activities in Krishna consciousness that would allow one to get a greater pleasure, so that one is quickly not engaging in material sense gratification. Why is it that one has to have this tug of one, falls victim to sense gratification again and again and again, even when somebody's been in Krishna consciousness for a long time? Is there certain activities that one is not doing that he should be doing to get that higher pleasure? Or is it that there's something else involved?
Might something that comes to mind, and then maybe other devotees can add what they've heard. Oh, yes, sir. Sleep depression is no doubt a very powerful thing. Rest. So, but you have to use our intelligence so that we are trying to control this still. And it's always still. But then we have to also understand on the transcendental platform, this engaging the mind and remembering the pastimes of the world. We have the rasa dance, and we have, Radha Kuma, pastimes are going on. Not that we imitate these things, but we can remember that the Lord is engaging in some exchanges. And we just cry and we are so poor. But still one day, we maintain that hope.
one day I will be fit and able to, go there. But still, we understand things. But we should not give up. And we should understand that there is form, but still there is great. So I'm waiting. So we just have to carry on and not give up. And then the Krishna within our heart gives us, he gives us more intelligence. He gives us intelligence. So, we have to just realize we are. And we can see the prayers of the six Goswamis and all the advanced devotees. They are also acknowledging the power of the material energy. It's not such an easy thing to become. Because then we become very proud. So best that we stay forward so that we remain humble. And just be honest. I'm fallen. This is my situation. But still there is hope that one day, we'll get things possible. And in this way we go on through our devotional life. Dust, and dust. And then we take our last breath and we'll be very surprised at what happens. This is the whole process. Undoubtedly, it's very, and you can see through the scripture. How many chapters are there for Anjana? So many chapters, because this is a big problem. But there is a solution, and it's by coming to Bhagavad Gita. This is the solution. This is our reality. It's not that we are very fortunate in this situation. Hallelujah. There's quarrel and these things. But still, we are so fortunate to be here today and we're giving us medicine through the needs. So today we are good. So this is the process, one day at a time. Humility, honesty, none of this cheating, none of this. You can see it doesn't. Don't change. Gradually.
The other thing that I've heard is it's just we have had lifetimes of being conditioned and being attached. So some of these lower things we can give up, and because we're following four regulative principles, so at least we come to the mode of goodness. We're not in the mode of pure goodness. So there's still a little bit, most of the time we're in the mode of goodness, but sometimes we'll tend towards the mode of ignorance or passion. So then we get carried away. But at least compared to someone who's not practicing this, we don't have that much sense enjoyment or sense attraction. So it has, but it's not going to go away completely because this is years, mounts like Himalaya amount of desires that we've got in the previous life. So it's not going to be easy, but we've given up the difficult bit. So these are the last little bits, like Prabhupada said, we have confidence that by practicing this, that little bit will go on. But then we also sort of reflect on ourselves. Sadhana is very important because that keeps us, that can protect us. So we find that morning sadhana isn't good that particular day if we didn't chant, we didn't attend Mangalati. Then it's easier for us to be carried away during the course of the day if something happens, that intelligence, sort of spiritual intelligence diminishes, and then we get carried away. And then we have to be, devotees should be introspective, should think, oh, why did I do this today? And we will repent, but we also want to see how can I prevent it from happening again. And sometimes we don't want to put ourselves, we think, why did I end up doing this? Was I in the wrong association? Was I too intimately dealing with non-devotees that made me change my consciousness? And on a normal day, I wouldn't have agreed to do that, but suddenly I did. So we should be introspective as well. And I guess the sadhana is very important. That gives us the strength to face these challenges when they come. But when it does happen, but when it does happen, we repent, but we don't get too depressed and we give up the other process too difficult. Sorry.
Along the way, Krishna gives us indications of issues that we've got hiding, yeah? And they come up in little ways again and again. And if we don't face them when they come up and we try to push them down, then they come up a bit bigger and they come up a bit bigger. And they, you know, until we're actually, like Prabhu said, being humble enough to really face those things that Krishna's showing us, still there, the little remnants, they're still there. We need to face that when Krishna shows us so that it doesn't culminate into a big thing and then suddenly there's some big fall down, or, you know, there's some really big issue. So it's just something I was reflecting for myself, because I can see Krishna shows you little things, you know, what about this one, what about that one? And if we're not able to face them, it just gets big. Krishna will show us again, but it'll be a bit bigger the next time. So
We need to be so mindful of those little reminders Krishna is giving. Or those, whatever. Krishna. And so, no other comments, questions? We'll end the Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur. Vanchakalpa Vishwakapa
Sindhuve Vachapatmani Vishnu Namaha. Jai. His Grace Kadamba Kanana ki jai.